Hey, welcome to this video. We're going to do a full end-to-end setup of a PPPoE server, which is going to act like our ISP router, and then we're also going to do the client setup as well. And by full PPPoE, I will also be configuring both routers from scratch. So I've got a HAP, which is going to act as my server, my PPPoE server. So that's going to be the ISP router. And then I'm going to use another HAP, a smaller AC light, which is going to act as the client. And then we're also going to have, I've got a very basic D-Link. So I just want to show that, you don't have, it's not just for connecting MikroTiks. So very simple setup, very much like this. So this is going to be my core router here. We're going to have this router here, and then we're going to have another one which will connect up afterwards. So the first one we're going to configure as our core one, which will have a PPPoE, and then we'll have the second MikroTik here, and then we'll configure out that D-Link. I do actually only have one laptop connected, so what I'm going to do is once I've got this one working, I'll then move the connection into the D-Link and we'll set it up from scratch. But the main focus is going to be really on this core setup. So on here, we're going to do PPPoE server. We're going to do authentication via Radius. So I have a separate Windows Radius server, which is coming off. If you imagine this cloud here is my development network. And then so I have a separate network with my servers on over here, which I've got an Ubuntu on. Again, that's not going to be, I'm not going to go through the setup of that in this video, but we do have other videos and guides for that. This is my website, by the way, where this is going to help you work through the PPPoE setup. This is a video that I did as well. So we'll basically be doing a very similar setup to this one, where we have the two client routers with the management, the bandwidth management. But in this video, this clip here, I didn't actually use the radius for this one. This was done via the static the static profiles, these ones here, but we're actually going to do a bit cleverer and use the radius server. So hopefully that's all clear. Bear with me, it's going to be quite a long video, but I'll obviously divide it up into chapters when I upload it, so you can skip ahead to the points you need, but it's just going to give you that full end-to-end solution. So if you are an ISP providing connectivity to clients, this is kind of how you go about it. And the reason I'm using the D-Link is really to simulate, you don't often, if you're the ISP, you don't really know what's happening you just provide the connection details to your client and you let them get on with it. Where in some cases you may also be supporting their router as well. So yeah, let's get on with it. As I mentioned, I've got two MikroTiks I'm going to use, which are being factory reset, so there's no config of them at all. They're both on the latest stable version, current stable version. So this is my AX, and then this is my HAP AX, and this is my HAP AC light. So this is going to be my client, this is going to be my server. All I've done is just gone into the config and then just done a factory reset with no default configuration. So there's no password on there, there's nothing. So first thing we do, obviously, is we're going to set that password. And I've done a few videos recently where I've done a full end-to-end setup of a MikroTik, but this is we're going to cover that as well. We're going to be setting up our LAN, WAN, and all the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is now I've just set that password, or I'll just log out so I can log back in with the extra password. It's a little handy tip. So it means when we open up our terminal, it's not going to ask us for a password. So like I said, we're going to start on our server. This is going to be our main one. No, that's the HAP, isn't it? Let's log back into our AX one, this one here. Okay, again, it's going to ask us to set that password. Okay, log out, jump back in again. Okay, there we go. Right, so this is going to be our server. So let's start by, so I don't keep logging into the wrong one. We'll give it a name, so we call this our ISP-01 router. You can see it's up there. Start with sorting the WAN out. So this is, I've got Ether 1 connected to my development network, which is acting as the internet access for this network. And then Ether 2 is what's connecting currently to my to that second HAP, which we'll get to in a minute. So for internet, I'm just using a DHCP client on this side. So we'll just add that to our Ether 1. I'm going to get the DNS and the static routes will come through. So there's my WAN interface set up. So we've got addresses. There we go. That's my IP address for my WAN side. Routes, and we got my default route there. So now let's sort our LAN out. So because our LAN this isn't going to be a traditional like a home router where you have a WAN and a LAN. The LAN is very much going to be serving the PPPoE clients. So they go to bridge first of all. I'm going to call that PPPoE _ bridge, and then turn off spanning tree. We're going to add the ports that would be connecting to our clients. So in my example, we've got 2 and then 3, and now this could be connected to a switch, in which case you may be having VLANs and stuff going on there. So we'll keep that bit simple for now. We'll just add 4 as well. So then I can plug my D-Link into 3 when we're ready for that stage. So we've got 2, 3, and 4 on my HAP as the are going to be a PPPoE, serving PPPoE to the clients. Okay, so we can close that. We're going to give that an IP address. Now the IP address I'm going to use is this this range here, which is it looks like a public IP address range, but it's actually it's a reserved range for things for local and private testing. So it's not routable across the internet. So you wouldn't ever present this to the internet to get any routable. As you can see, it's not. None of these are going to be pingable or routable over the internet. So this is just a good range to use for our internal. So we can use it in our internal network like we could any of the other class A, B, or C. So we'll use this range for our PPPoE clients. So select PPPoE bridge under the addresses. Just paste that in there. Don't worry about your network because that'll apply that for us. There we go. Okay. Oh, no, I don't want 0, do I? I want 1 as the first one. So that's going to be the gateway for our clients. Okay. Okay, we've done our LAN or WAN. Let's sort our routing out. So this one is going to then, so it can route to the outside world. Go to Firewall NAT. I'm just going to add a masquerade rule. So out interface, so we are masquerading, we're natting all of our traffic. Some of these bits I may be skipping a bit fast through, and you may be thinking, hang on, what's that about? I'd recommend you go back, and if you're struggling with this part of it, of the initial setup of a router, then check out my other videos. I've got ones for the version 7, I've got ones for version 6 firmware, I've got ones using the new and the old Winbox. So there's lots of on my channel. So yeah, I'll put a whole link to a playlist with all those in, should you want to check those out. But yeah, I don't want to be skipping through stuff and people are getting lost already, so I want to focus more on the PPPoE bit and all the other bits that go with that. So let's make sure I've done that right. So Ether 1, so anything out of Ether 1, we're gonna masquerade. Okay. And for good measure, I'm going to set up my firewall rule to block any on the input chain. Anything coming in from Ether 1. That isn't from, let's create an address list here. Call allowed. In my other videos I actually did this in separate rules, but for just simplicity I'm going to do it all in one rule. Just to allow my development network so I can access it still over that network. 0. This would be for any public facing IP addresses you want to access your router through for remote management. So anything coming input into the router that isn't in that list,
that's coming in from Ether1, and that isn't established, we're going to drop. Okay, just a little, always best practice to set that, even though we're in a dev network and we're not, we're behind another network anyway. It's always best practice to set that. Okay, so we do our PPPoE now. So we can go to PPPoE servers. We'll just call this PPPoE underscore service. Interface is going to be on my PPPoE bridge. In fact, that should be okay like that. Okay. We're going to create, so normally what we do is create these secrets here, which would have our client information in, but we're actually going to jump straight to enabling our radius. And then we'll go to our radius settings here, PPPoE and all PPPs are in login. My address of my radius server, which I'm going to go into in a second. We'll give it my preferred secret password, which if I unhide that, you can see there, hello world 123. As I say every time, you would use something more secure, but this is just a demonstration. Okay, so now that's our radius server, the way we're going to send our requests to, and then we've told PPP section to use radius for its authentication section. So now if we jump onto our radius server, I can show you that. 10.200.21.40. So again, I've done a video for setting this up as well, so you can check that out, and there's also a guide on my website as well, which you can follow as well if that's easier for you. We'll just confirm that my FreeRADIUS service is running. Service FreeRADIUS status. Yep, so we are running. Okay, cancel that. Okay, we shouldn't need that anymore unless we need to debug anything. Now, this is the front end to the database. So if you're not familiar, Radius is basically a service that's running. It will listen for requests from a particular IP address, which we're going to specify now, and then if it's got the valid secret and everything's okay, it's going to then, you will send, your device will send the username and password. It will compare it to either a username password that's configured inside of its config file, or using a database, which we're doing here. And if that's accepted, it will then send the information back to say yes, accept. And then we can also send additional parameters to our Radius client, so the device that's basically our PPPoE server, to specify certain things, which we'll get into in a sec. So first thing we need to do is set up this NAS. This is going to be the information for the device that's making the PPPoE requests, which is our PPPoE server. So not the clients itself, not the client machines, but actually the PPPoE server. So if you remember, just go back to Radius. So I've put in this details here. So that's where I'm going to send my request to from this device. So we need to do it. We need to specify the IP address that's coming from here. Now, the IP address that's going to make this request is wherever it's going to route out of, and it's going to, because I've got that default route routing everything out of my, what I'm calling my WAN interface, Ether1. It's going to be coming from that Ether1 IP address, which is .6. So that's going to be the IP address we specify in here. So NAS name is going to be an IP address or a resolvable DNS name, which we don't have, so we'll just call this PPPoE server. Secret, that's that hello world 123 I set. Okay, and that's it. So we need to set there. So that's now set in there. You can see. So now we can go back to here and close that. Now with the PPPoE, we can create a profile, and with that profile, we can specify certain things. So
So I'll show you now. So video profile PPPoE. So its local address is going to be that 203.113.1, which is our local address. Now the remote address, this is going to be either be the we can have this as a IP and pooled, and we can set up an address range here for it to give out IP addresses from. But I'm actually going to do that via the radius. So I will show you that. So we're not going to fill that bit out. So basically means if it doesn't have a valid entry in the radius server, the client's not going to get an IP address. So it's just one extra layer you have to be careful of. But then again, we want to also be in control about what we're giving out to our clients. Okay, so we can apply that, and then from here we can also do our queues and our limits. So queues we're going to set. We'll set a we're going to create a parent queue. So queues, a simple queue. We'll call this global. Match on any, and we'll just give it a total of 550 by 50. Now I don't actually have 50 on my upload on this network, and I don't actually have 50 on my download. It's just a small VDSL connection. So in fact, yeah, for that reason, let's drop that to 20 and say 10. Okay. So basically now we can select global. So that means all of our other queues are going to be within that range. So they'll never. So then if you did have stuff, I've done other videos about queuing. So basically in a queue tree or simple queues, anything outside of that would not be affected by this range. So if you had some dedicated bandwidth you wanted to give people, you could keep them outside of this global one. Or you could call this shared, and then the other one you could call like dedicated, and have those separate, and then forming the parent queue would be one of those. So if you've got say 3 clients who are on a shared one and they're given 10 meg each, you could have the maximum, say 50 meg. So as you add more clients in, so you add 6 clients of 10 meg, yes, you're oversubscribed, but that's fairly common with ISPs. It means that if everyone starts maxing it out, you could have another client which you're selling dedicated bandwidth to of say 50 meg, and you've got 100 meg in total. That means that they will always get their 50 meg, because no matter what the other guys are doing within their queue, they'll never expand that 50 meg, if that makes sense. So again, I've got lots of other videos for which really caged me for queuing. So check those out, with different protocols, whether it be Cake, FQ Codel, or PCQs. But Cake is, I would say, probably one of the preferred ones. Okay, there we go. Apply that. Now that, even when our client connects, if we don't specify a limit here, that queue won't get created. So something to bear in mind as well. But again, we're going to dish these speeds out from our radius as well. So basically our radius server is going to authenticate, and then it's going to give our client their IP, and it's going to give our client their speed. Okay. Now we could do that by profiles, and again, that's covered in the other video. The difference between giving the speed via the radius or via the profile. So check that out. Okay. So now we've got our PPPoE server set. Let's go ahead and one other thing we need to do, firewall, because these are clients connecting, we want to kind of protect client to client. So we want to, if you're on a network and you find you're given a /24, you might think, oh, who else is on this network? And then you could try and ping, or DDoS, brute force, anything like that. So I think a good thing to do is just in the forward chain, anything coming from that's going to pass through the router in this network, and anything that's going to, so it comes from one of these IP addresses going to one of those IP addresses, because it's going to travel through the router, because we're not going for a switch. So we're not, so it's going to pass through here. It's going to then drop that traffic between the two. Take action, drop. Okay. just to prevent client-to-client communication, because these are both private clients that we're selling connections to. Okay, so we've got that set. We can now look at doing our client, but first let's configure our radius. So we're going to create 2 clients. So I'm rad check. The rad check is the one that does the will check against the credentials. So this is where we have the username and passwords. So we're going to call this one PPPoE client 1, and then clear text password colon equals, and then we'll give this one password 01. Okay, and we can do the same under here. Add another one. We can just go, and what I'm going to do is go browse and copy, and just update this. Okay, now we have our 2 clients. Now we're going to specify, go to client rad reply. Now this is once it's authenticated and it's valid, it will then, these are the parameters we're going to send back. And to find out the names of the parameters we want to use, just head to this radius client on the MikroTik website, and then down here we have these. So this is the request. So these are the different parameters we could check against, and then these are what we could then send back. So the ones we're interested in today are, we're going to send back the framed IP address, and we could do everything from network, the specific pool we wanted to pull an IP address from, sessions timeout, we can do lots of stuff like that. But yeah, we're going to use the framed IP address, so we'll do that one first. Okay, so we're going to insert, and it's going to match. So once it's approved that client, it's going to then match on that username again to make sure that this is spelled correctly. Attribute is again going to be the framed IP address, same op of colon equals, and then in here we're going to specify the IP address we want to give out. So our first client we will give .2, or let's say 20, space it out a bit. There you go, and then we'll just go to browse and copy that again, and change 2 to be, in fact I'm going to give that 22, because that's just how I like to do things. And have some way of matching up. There we go, so the end one matches up the client number. Now we're also going to give back the speeds. So we go back to here and we find the rate. So we're looking for this rate limit. Copy. And then we can actually just copy this one, change that to be the rate, and then change this to be, so we can either specify up and down as differently. We're just going to give them 5 meg, and then that will give them 5 meg up and down. And then we'll just do the same for client 2, and then we'll give them a bit more. We'll give them, let's give them 7. I'm just keeping it small just so it's obvious. Now, one thing I've had problems with in the past, and I've still not managed to work out why. Some people have given me a few suggestions, but it's haven't managed to get it working just yet, is the upload. When you do it this way, when you do the queues via the automatic queue assignment, so I'll bring that back up my PPP profiles. So when you assign it this way, my upload never seems to be rate limited. So interesting to see if the other demos I've done on using CHR, so the cloud, the virtual version of MikroTik. So I'm just interested to see if maybe that's got anything to do with it. I don't think it will, but you know, always up for being proved wrong. So yeah, just be warned, when I do that speed test, it may not work. So, and I'll go into that in a bit of detail. When I do ever discover, if you're watching this video and I've since worked it out, I will add a comment to this video and all the other videos where this is played a part, and we'll just pin that comment and then also put it in the description so you can check it out where I've worked out where I went wrong. So let's create our client now. So this one here, we've already set the password, so let's just call this one system identity client 01. Okay, again we're going to sort its WAN out first, and its WAN is connected to Ether 1, but instead of actually putting an IP address or DHCP or anything on there, what we're going to do is add an additional interface, PPPoE client, and then we specify which interface we want, which is Ether 1. Dial out, this is where we put our credentials in, PPPoE, that's client. Okay, password was that, password 01, I believe it was 01. Let's check that. Password 01. Yep. Okay, we want to get a default route, and everything else we can just leave as it is. Okay. So now what that's going to do is go away and make a radius request. And there we go. So then we have our registered clients come up. And there we go, R for registered. So if we check our IP addresses, there we go. As you can see, I've got my IP address. Okay. So my MikroTik should be able to ping. There we go. So you can ping the internet. You can just do a trace route. Okay, so it's going to the ISP router, and then it's going on to my development now by my ISP. So that's the internet part for the client setup. Now we'll go ahead and sort the WAN and all the rest of it out. So again, we're going to create this time we're going to create a bridge for our LAN. So we'll call this LAN bridge. Okay, we'll just add in all our LAN ports. Because it was connected via the bridge, and I just added that port in. 3, 4, and 5. Okay. One thing I also say, these obviously have Wi-Fi on them. I'm not going to configure the Wi-Fi on them today because we're not going to be using that for testing, but that again is covered in multiple other videos. So it will just take a lot longer just to go through that, where we want to concentrate on getting the actual router itself working. So there's my LAN setup. We go to IP addresses. I'm going to give it an IP range. Let's just do 192.168.0.1 /24. That's going to be on our LAN bridge. Okay. And so we can route from that range. We go to IP firewall. And we're going to create that Mango rule for this side. But our out interface is going to be our PPPoE client, not Ether 1. Ether 1 is just the layer 2 connection that it's using to establish that PPPoE network connection across Masquerade. Okay. Now we want to give our client an IP address, so we can do that. We're creating a DHCP server. Use this DHCP setup. Select LAN bridge because we've already given it its IP, so it grabs all the details for us. We will just use Cloudflare DNS. Let's just, for good practice, increase that to 10 hours. Okay. Now let's see if our machine gets the IP address. This management network, don't worry about that. That's just how I'm remotely accessing the machine while I obviously play around with its network settings. I always do this just because it doesn't interfere with any of the routing of the actual device for internet itself. It just gives us a remote way to monitor everything and access everything at the same time while I demo. So this is going to be the network connection to here. While it enables, it just dropped me off because I shut it down and re-enabled it. There we go, and we've got a lease, so we've got an IP address. So let's ping the internet first of all. Yep, and ping Google. Cool, so we've got internet, we've got DNS working. That all looks good. Again, for good measure, we'll just sort out our input chain. Don't worry about that. We'll just add anything coming in from PPPoE 1, remember, because that's the one that the routing's happening over. That isn't established. Again, got videos that explain all what I'm doing here in more detail, so check those out. This is the important thing you should always do. There we go. So everything outbound. Just check I still have internet. Yep. Okay. So there we go. There's my LAN setup. Now what we're going to do is just see what's happened with those queues that we created earlier. To see our active clients, we just go back to PPP, and under that first interface option, we've got this dynamic one created, which is client 1, as you can see there. And then we go to queue. And there we go, it's created me this dynamic 5 meg one. So now if we do a speed test, there we go, we're getting 5 meg down. This queue will go red because we're maxing it out. Obviously 5 meg is a very small amount. If you were an actual ISP or you were selling connections, you would have a lot more to play with. There we go, see, it's gone past the 5, but it should be, and it's maxing out at 7, which is probably the maximum I can get across this network. So again, uploads are still not working, so I'm going to figure that out, why it doesn't do that with the dynamic ones, because you really want to be using these because it's so much easier. You don't have to match on the client IP. So every time you sell a new service to a client, you want it to be as you know, as zero touch as possible. So you would just configure it all in the Radius server ideally, and then this would just then dynamically assign all these profiles and connections. So, but anyway, I'll leave that one connected. And what I'm now going to do is go and connect that D-Link, and then we will have a go at that. Okay, so that is now connected. As you can see, I've lost client access to my previous client router. So we can close that, and we would have got a new IP. It's on the same range as the other one, which is fine because I was going to set it to that anyway. So let's configure this up. Okay. Password 02. Client 2 wasn't that? That's why. Password 02. Okay, leave all the rest blank. Apply. Setup complete. Check out our. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that worked. So we've got our client. It's got the speed set. Let's see if the router can tell us if we've got internet access. There we go. Yeah, internet green, I guess means good. As you can see, it's got the details as we want. Hopefully the rest is default and set up already, so let's just see if it will get any internet access. Oh, yep, looking promising. Google.com. Here we go. Let's do that speed test now. Right. And we're getting, yep, 7, which we would expect. And we'll be getting 7 down. Probably gonna throw us a bit because, and like I mentioned before, the 7 actually isn't applying via there, it's applying because it's that's the most I can get across my network. As you can see, it's now gone over 7, so cool. There we go. So yeah, that was probably a bit all over the place in some parts, so apologies for that. I really wanted to just show you the full end-to-end setup for everything, and then I thought I'd throw in that D-Link as well, just as a bit of a very simplistic, and again, you're giving your client the information, so you just give them that username and password, tell them it's PPPoE, and they should be able to figure out the rest. D-Link obviously and TP-Link and those sort of devices are very, they're, you know, designed at the more basic knowledge individual who, you know, isn't IT savvy, so they're just setting up their home connection. So that's what kind of why I use that. It's very simple. It has a lot of the, you know, the Wi-Fi and all that default set anyway, so, but we're not worrying about that. We just wanted to get a connection. We've got internet through it, so we proved that bit works. So yeah, then you would just go ahead and add all more clients, adjust their speeds, everything via your Radius server. So yeah, any questions about that? If you, like I say, when I figure out the upload speed, why that's not working, I will sort that out for you, make a video dedicated to that, and then just pin those that video, or and I'll do an article on the web page as well, just to back that up as well. But yeah, any questions? Like I said at the beginning, this was a request from someone who'd watched my other videos, or may have not mentioned that. But yeah, I'm always happy to try and accommodate as much as possible. I've got quite a big list at the moment, so I'm trying to work through those. So yeah, just bear with me. I will try and get to them. But if there's anything in particular you want explained, or problems you're having, please reach out. I'm always happy to help. So, but if not, I'll say thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.